last night I was in bed, you know, thinking about my life, all the choices, everything I've said, all the mistakes I've made. You know how it is, anxiety 101. Then I remembered a moment in my childhood where I was so freaking gullible that it's ridiculous. All right, so I was in second or first grade. It doesn't matter. It was like 2007 hit era of Hannah Montana, all right? So in my second grade class, there was this girl who's really popular. I wasn't that popular. I know. Shocker, right? I find it hard to believe too. Anyways, I'm gonna drop a name because I don't like this. No, I'm just joking. I have nothing against her. I don't even know her anymore. I only knew her in second grade. But anyways, her name was Mackenzie. If you're watching this on TikTok, I remember what you did and I will never forget, okay? Because I trusted you. Mackenzie told me that she was Hannah Montana's little sister. I can't believe I fucking believe that shit. Yes, you heard it. She was Hannah Montana's little sister, okay? And I can't believe that. Now, what I'm about to tell you, it's gonna show you how real stupid I was back then. Do not judge me, okay? I'm getting red just thinking about this. Okay, so you know in the show, Hannah Montana, she was Miley Cyrus, you know? Her real name was Miley and she just wore a wig. I thought that I was the only one that knew Hannah Montana was actually Miley Cyrus. And since Mackenzie knew that she was Miley Cyrus, she was like, you know, she's actually not Hannah Montana. Her real name's Miley. And I was like, oh my God, she knows! She is actually Hannah Montana. I'm gonna go jump out the window. And Mackenzie was like, yeah, I can get you free tickets to her show if you do everything I tell you to do for the rest of the year. And me being a stupid bitch, I did. In my defense, I wasn't the only one that believed her, okay? The whole second grade class believed, okay? That lying little snake. Some of them found out the truth earlier than others. I took until 4th grade to realize that she was lying. Moral of the story is, don't believe everything everybody tells you, okay? And for you, Mackenzie, I hope you're not out there still telling people you're Hannah Montana's little sister.
Am I wrong for eating my husband's entire birthday cake by myself? I'll preface this by saying that my husband's family and I don't get along. Like, at all. We're rarely ever on good terms, and for my mental health, I decided to put distance between us. Especially after I was blamed for my most recent miscarriage that happened 3 months ago. My husband can still see them and visit them whenever he wants. For me, I don't attend any of their events, not even Thanksgiving nor Christmas. My husband's 30th birthday was 2 days ago. I planned to celebrate with him. I bought a cake and a gift, but he said that his family invited him to celebrate his birthday and he really wanted to go because the birthday parties his family throw are like no others. We had an argument over this, but he told me to wait for him till he finished celebrating there with his family, then we could celebrate together at home and eat a cake. After he left, I felt so terrible. I called him, but he turned his phone off. I was so mad I took the cake and brought it into the living room and started eating from it. I ate the whole thing, not saving him a single piece. Guess I was so angry and it made me hungry. He came home and saw what I did and blew up saying I did this to be spiteful and to punish him for not ditching his family on his birthday like I wanted him to. I reminded him that I paid for the cake, but he called me petty and nuts. He ranted and said that he didn't get to eat cake at his parents' house because a lot of kids were there and he didn't get enough cake, and what I did was 10 times worse. He's been upset with me ever since. So, am I wrong?
Okay, so I was in a toxic relationship and I knew it was toxic, but I didn't know it would turn like scary until this one night. Story time. So my boyfriend lived in the middle of nowhere, Canada, in a cabin in like the woods, which should have been my first red flag, but it wasn't. So I was staying with him in May, and one night he wanted to go to bed and I wanted to stay on the couch and watch TV. So he goes to his room, and then like 20 minutes later, I hear him yelling and throwing things around in his room. And I was like, oh my God, what's wrong? When I saw him, it was the weirdest look in his eyes. It was like my boyfriend was gone and he was possessed by this angry monster guy. He was like, why don't you want to come to bed with me? Why don't you care about me? You're so cold all the time. You don't even love me. And I was like, what? Like, I really had no idea what I had done that triggered this, because I did have anger issues and he would get mad at me a lot, but usually I could like figure out why he was mad. And this time I was shocked. So I was like, I don't know, what's wrong though? And he picks up my suitcase and he throws it across the room and he's like, it's just you, you're so cold, you're gonna move to LA and never talk to me again. So it was around 1 a.m. at this point, and he was picking up my suitcase and pushing it around the room and saying that he wanted to take me to the airport and drop me off there because I was gonna leave him anyway. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's totally fine. Please take me to the airport. And at that point, I knew being in like a public place was safer than being alone in this cabin with him. So I picked up whatever I saw like that I could find of my clothes that he had thrown, put them in my suitcase, and then I let him put me in his car, and then he starts, oh my god, it was the middle of the night, and he couldn't see anything on the road, and he was speeding and swerving around in the lanes and playing like the weirdest sad music and crying and yelling while he was driving. So at this point, I didn't know if I was gonna make it. Like, I didn't know what he wanted to do in the car, like, because he was acting so irrational. So I decided to text my roommate, and I told her his car info and like the license plate and where I was, and I grabbed the handle, and I was like, I guess I looked too scared, and he saw me texting my roommate, and he was like, oh my god, you're telling your friends that I'm abusive, aren't you? Like, you're gonna tell them I'm abusive. And I was like, no, I'm not, I promise, I won't tell anyone, I won't tell my family, I won't tell anyone. And then he does a huge U-turn. So he does a U-turn in the middle of the road, and he takes me back to his house, and he told me to get in his room and like stay in his bed. That way I couldn't tell my family that he left me at the airport or something. And that was the most terrifying night of my entire, I literally stared at the ceiling the entire time because I heard him pacing outside of his door, and I locked it, but I didn't know if he was gonna come in at any moment and what he was gonna do to me. This might be TMI, but I had to pee really bad, and I couldn't use the bathroom though because he was outside of his door and I was scared of him. So I held it all night long, and I didn't sleep, and then in the morning I had a UTI, and he had to take me to the doctor, and he said he loved me enough to make sure that my health was okay, even though I was so cold to him. So yeah.
Time. Okay, so this is a short story about how my dad got deported. So unfortunately, my dad was deported one day and he got sent to Mexico, and he also ended up leaving 4 kids behind. Those 4 kids including myself, and also he left behind my mom. So while my dad was over there, my mom still supported him in everything. She would still send him money and supplies. After a while, we finally gathered up enough money to buy bus tickets for me, my siblings, and my mom to go see my dad in Mexico. But there was one problem. When we got there, we didn't have passports, so they wouldn't let us in. We tried 2 more times, and on the 3rd time, we got in by paying $200 US. By the time we were finally able to see my dad, 2 years had already gone by. But after that, it all went downhill because my tia ended up telling my mom the chisme. Chisme being that my dad got with his cousin, like they did the you-know-what. After that, my mom beat him up. We ended up going back, and she sold all of his stuff, and she even went on dates with his friends. But it was never anything more than that. She lost a lot of weight, gets hit on all the time, and she has a good paying job and takes care of all of us, so go mom.
I'm mind blown at what just happened at Target. I'm at the self-checkout line, and there's a family with a bunch of kids, and one of them spills a very large cup of milk over the floor. Family looks at it, they go, and they carry on. Of course. So a bunch of Target employees in neon orange and yellow vests come over to clean it up. The number of people who have just blatantly disregarded not only this giant puddle of liquid, but these numerous Target employees in neon vests trying to just clean up the mess. One lady walked through the whole mess, got it all over shoes, started tracking it further down the hallway, looked back and saw us all looking at her like, are you serious? And started yelling at us! I didn't even see it, so just get over it! I'm sorry, what? Another man came over, stepped in it, asked, what is this? And someone's like, a kid made a mess. Oh, okay, and continued to just step in it and track it everywhere.